Hey guys, what's up? It's Darkmech here and welcome back to another video. So I finally finished my final mage tower, granting me access into that ever so elusive Club 36. Go me. Oh, I honestly feel like I can start living again. So from this I wanted to make a video talking about it, about the towers, what I think it's done for me as a player, how I think the towers have impacted Legion, and pretty much whatever else I want to talk about around this, because I kind of feel like I've earned the right to share my feels around this now. I also got asked if I would make a video ranking the towers after I had completed all of them, so I can very well run with that excuse too. So where do I start? Well, my Mage Tower journey started off with the Blood Death Knight, and completing it at the start I think was honestly a real sign of commitment, not only to your class, to the spec, to the scenario itself, and just to sheer stupidity. So after I got the Death Knight done, I really wanted the Fire Glaives on the Demon Hunter, and then I wanted the Blades on the Vengeance Demon Hunter, and then it kind of turned into, for me, into a bit of a race to try and get through the 6 tanks as quickly as I could. After I completed the last tank, which was in July last year, which is crazy, you know, when you put that into perspective. I basically got a full year's worth of game content at my own pace just from the Mage Towers alone. Now I probably could have done them a hell of a lot quicker if that was my sole focus in regards to what I was doing, but as I kind of progressed, I just did it as the urge surfaced to do each class or another spec, and I think that's made Legion quite a memorable X-Pack for me, as the towers have had such a significance throughout my gameplay in Legion. Originally I never actually wanted to do all 36. It was never actually something that was on my radar at all. It kind of just happened. People kept saying, you should try this one, have you done this one, try this class, and then people started asking me if I was going to go and complete them all. So I just putted along doing alt after alt, or different spec after spec, and then I started leveling the classes that I didn't have at 110 via the invasions, as I just figured it was a good way to do it, and then it kind of turned into some kind of addiction. I think one of the best things to come from the Legion Towers is the diversity it brought to people's gameplay. So I'm obviously just speaking for myself here, but I would assume there would be quite a few people in the same boat. Not for a million years did I ever think I'd play a Holy Priest, a Holy Paladin, a Mistweaver Monk, a Demo Warlock, a Destruction Warlock, all those casters in between. I never thought I would even touch one. I had no interest in them whatsoever. The Mage Tower actually got me playing specs and classes that I had obviously zero understanding of, and I'd never actually even taken an honest interest in them. But from that, I had a hell of a lot of fun, and I like to think I provided some decent lols along the way. Hands up to my 47 hardcast Pyroblast world record. Yeah, the boys. But from a serious focus, I also think having a basic understanding of those classes now has not only turned me into a better player, but a better tank. And I think a lot of people would have a much more fleshed out understanding of the classes in the games now because of the Mage Towers. I think they offered a lot of fantastic content as well, from not only a solo perspective, but which also fed into a group perspective. Now, as I mentioned before, I basically got a full year out of focusing on these Mage Towers to some degree, and I don't feel like that's been a drawn out experience or something I've done because there was nothing else to do in Legion, or a waste of time or anything like that. I for one had an enormous amount of support along the way. You know, the towers themselves may be a scenario solo, but gearing up for them wasn't, and it was really easy, I found, to meet like-minded people that were going for certain skins, or that would want to run Mythic Pluses on their alts to try and gear them up and things like that. Also, the advice that you would receive from people, you know, going through the same challenges or having just finished the same horrors that you're about to start, I think that served to make a really cool community around the Mage Towers. And I think that's what I enjoyed about streaming the towers sort of so much. So I only started streaming the towers from like when I got to the Rogue, I think. And I think, you know, it's fair to say it kind of takes balls to put your failure on display. It's easy to upload the finished product to YouTube and say, look how much of a fucking PogChamp I am. But when you're streaming it and you have no idea what you're doing and you're failing miserably, you know, I think people really enjoyed seeing that side of things. And again, I met a hell of a lot of really cool people out of doing that. So after all 36 towers are said and done, where did I rank them? Now, of course, my views are going to be very different to yours. It was the exact same scenario when I did this for the tanks. The mage towers not having a set scaled item level means depending on where you completed them, where artifact knowledge was at the time, what raid was out, gearing options, what class you main, what classes you've never played before, you know, it's going to have an impact on how you view and how you rank these challenges. So I think, you know, ranking these in difficulty is a very personal viewpoint. So just keep all that in mind as I go through with my own. And if you've got different ones, of course, in the comment section below, let me know, because if you've done this as well, I would love to know where things sat for you. And if you're racing through them, or if you've done a large amount of them, or whatever, even if you've only done a few, let me know below anyway. I always love reading that stuff. So I decided to go about ranking these similarly to how I did the tank challenges. So a top tier, a medium tier, and a lower tier. I'm going to offer some comments as I go, but please remember, when I say lower tier, it just means it's one that I had a less tilting time completing than the above rank ones. I'm not saying that you're shit. I'm not saying that if you can't do it, you're a nub. I'm not saying if you found it hard that you're a noob. I'm not saying I'm the Ron Jeremy of the Mage Tower world. They're just the experiences I had. So starting at the top, guys. Top tier, I had Blood DK, Holy Priest, Frost Mage, Protection Warrior, and Fury Warrior. So they were the top tier ones for me in terms of the challenges, in terms of the ones that I struggled with the most. And I'm going to give you a breakdown on that. So Blood DK got a spot at the top of my list, and a lot of people are probably going, why on earth would Blood DK be up the top? It's so easy now. Perspective here, I guess. Blood was my very first tower completion. At that stage, 0.6% of tanks had completed the tower on its second pop. I was item level 901, I didn't have Concordance, Blood hadn't received its DPS buffs around the spec then either, so for me it was a tremendous achievement to get. It was something that I spent absolutely hours pouring myself into. I had well over 100 wipes to achieve that, and it was bound to leave an impression and a stain on the placement in regards to where I rank this tower. So that is why Blood is up the top for me. Holy Priest sits up there as well, because it just seemed to be the class that I could not fudge my way through. For all the mage towers, all bar Holy Priest, you know, 920 to 930 was an overgeared level or a state to be in, to have little knowledge or no knowledge of that class and still manage to get through the tower. However, Holy Priest seemed to be on another fucking planet. I had to get my priest to 945 equipped to get through the Holy Challenge, and even then I still managed to suck it up pretty bad. In my opinion, it's one of the hardest challenges to complete out of all of the classes, and in my opinion it's certainly the hardest healer to complete. So that's why it belongs in the top tier. Protection Warrior I put in there because it's just very different. Phase 1 on the Prot Warrior compared to any of the other tanks for me was extremely aggressive and just felt very different. It was a real change in approach to how you went about this. Once you got through Phase 1, Phase 2 was a little bit easier on the Prot Warrior in regards to spell reflection on Twisted Nether. But I just felt it was a very large change walking into the Prot Warrior from other tanks, so that's why I put it in the top tier. Frost Mage, in my opinion, was super involved. The hands were a giant pain in the anus, and I felt like I had to be really on top of things in the Frost Mage one. Old mate Karen would run at you like he got the star in Mario Kart and couldn't be stopped. The runes would spawn in ridiculous places sometimes, meaning you had to go right into the fray of things to try and hit the rune off. Otherwise it could completely cuck you. You'd get hands spawning all the time. It was super fun going absolutely ham with Frozen Orb and Blizzard, but I think in comparison to some of the other challenges, it certainly deserves a spot in the top tier. And lastly in my top tier was the Fury Warrior. Now I'm sure a bunch of Fury Warriors are out there are going, what the hell? I just seem to really struggle with the extra health pool on Agatha on Fury. I really sucked at playing Fury and had no idea what I was doing. But again, it seemed to be on another level to the other Imp Mother challenges. Now, one thing I didn't know about at the time was the Light Blood Elixir, the Falcasaur Omelette, and the Tree Stat Potion. I can't remember what it's called. So that may have changed things quite a bit, and if you put a combination of actually knowing what I was doing in there, maybe it wouldn't have been so hard. But for some reason, I think I had around 26 wipes on the Imp Mother challenge on Fury, and yeah, it just seemed to be on a different level for the Imp Mother challenge, so that's why I've placed it in the top tier. Moving down, guys, to the medium tier of things. So I had Shadow Priest, Protection Paladin, Arcane Mage, Havoc Demon Hunter, Frost DK, Holy Paladin, Resto Druid, Mistweaver Monk, and the Resto Shaman in my mid tier. Out of all of these challenges and out of everything in a whole, from a fun perspective, I think Shadow Priest actually wins. I had the best time doing the Shadow Priest Mage Tower Challenge. Surrender to Madness strat was amazing. You either got this in 3 minutes or you didn't. It was just that simple. You either got it in 3 minutes or you blew up. That made it really fun. You became so tunnel visioned on your insanity bar, pinging everywhere. You had no vision space to look at anything else. I found Shadow Priest to be a really fun one to complete. Protection Paladin, I was 909 at the time that I did this. I didn't find it overly ridiculous, to be honest. I found the ability to lock Varus down with Avenger's Shield in phase 1, made that go really smoothly for Paladins. By the time I got to the Prot Paladin as well, I had an extreme understanding of the scenario by then, which makes a huge difference on the tank one. Arcane Mage, I had heard mixed things about. I didn't find it overly ridiculous. It was kind of spam Arcane Explosion, Sheep, and Run Away was the general gist of it, and just executing the mechanics. So I didn't struggle too badly on Arcane Mage. Again, though, I was overgeared by that stage. Frost DK was harder than some of the Xylem challenges, just due to mobility restrictions, obviously, on a Death Knight. All in all, I didn't find it too bad once you really got into your execution of spamming Death Strike over and over and over and over, and then just executing through the encounter. I didn't find it too bad. The 4 healers I've got in here, Resto Druid, Resto Sham, Holy Paladin, and Mistweaver, I found I was not easily, but I was able to learn by doing as I went through these towers. It was the first time I'd ever played the healers, and I learned as I went through the tower. I didn't find it as bad as Holy Priest, and that's why they've ended up in the mid tier. I certainly had struggles on them, but it was just nothing in comparison to what I found when I got to the Holy Priest. So that's why I've put them in the mid tier. It's 100% worth mentioning that my Monk, when I did it, was 954. That obviously plays a huge factor into how easy the tower was for me on Mistweaver. My Druid was also 933, so that obviously has a large bearing on where I have placed them. Havoc Demon Hunter was an interesting one. So Havoc Demon Hunter, I actually found, it took me a little bit. I wanted those Fireglaves bad. It was the first Xylan challenge that I'd done, and it was very much about learning the execution, learning how to get out of the ice phase, the arcane phase, transitioning across the platform, when to move, and then the last phase. All of that kind of left an impact as I was learning. So I think the Havoc Demon Hunter one for me belonged in the mid tier, as it was the first Xylan one that I'd learnt, and learning to execute that fight, you know, it certainly took a little bit of time. Lastly, guys, the lower tier. So you can see the majority of ones have ended up in the lower tier here. So Disc Priest, Demonology Warlock, Windwalker Monk, Balanced Druid, Affliction Warlock, Vengeance, Demon Hunter, Fire Mage, and Holy DK, Destruction Warlock, Beastmaster Hunter, Marksmanship Hunter, Survival Hunter, Sub Rogue, Outlaw Rogue, Assassination Rogue, Ret Paladin, Arms Warrior, Feral Druid, Alley Shaman, Enhancement Shaman, Guardian Druid, and Brewmaster Monk. Now again, I want to say for the sake of this video that I have just classed these in the lower tier, but I'm not saying that these classes required no skill. I'm not saying that you're a nub if you couldn't complete them. I'm not saying they're super duper stupidly easy. People just asked me to make a video ranking them, and this is where things have sat for me after thinking about it for some time. So the Disc Priest one, I think once I learned the buttons, I think everyone could agree was a fair joke. And lots of people one-shot it. I didn't one-shot it. I was playing like an absolute fucking special kid on that day. But it didn't take me too many attempts. Demonology took forever. I had zero idea what I was doing, but all you did was just execute mechanics and stay alive, and you eventually ended up winning. Balanced Druid was running in a circle and pressing Starfall. I had fun on that one. Affliction Warlock. Now, I did the Infernal Mortal Coil cheese strat, okay? So I put my hand up to that straight away. Doing it properly probably would have placed this in the top tier or the mid tier. I have zero doubts about that, but doing it the way I did it with Portal Pants, it was really easy. Vengeance Demon Hunter was the easiest of all the tanks, and I still say that now. Especially when they broke Spirit Bomb for that week, which saw loads of people completing the tower. Even when the changes to Spirit Bomb came in after they normalized it, you know, being able to lock Varus down with Imprison and things like that, the Demon Hunter had it pretty well. Getting punted off the edge, being able to glide down, Demon Hunter had it pretty well. Fire Mage. I think we can all agree here. I hard casted 47 Pyroblasts in that challenge. You can simply do the math on how difficult it must be. Feral Druid was broken by OP Brutal Slash when I did it. Brewmaster Monk could be broken with Invoke Nizal, or however you say it. It allowed for a much easier time in phase 1 and 2, and I took full advantage of that. The Guardian Druid, this is an interesting one. With the right legendaries, it was, I don't want to say easy, it was certainly easier. If you didn't have Lufas and Eco, you probably had a very different experience to myself on the Druid. I, however, got super lucky on the Druid, got those legendaries, and it didn't take me many attempts at all to knock it over. But again, being aware of the challenge and knowing the mechanics also played a large part in making that an easier experience for me. I don't sort of want to rattle off through the rest of the list, as there's just so many there. But that's sort of an overview, I guess, through the tiers. So to finish up, I kind of guess I want to talk about the disparity between these scenarios. So I think the Mage Towers were hands down, no questions asked, a fantastic addition to Legion. The only thing I think took away from the Mage Towers were how unbalanced they were for some classes and some scenarios. A great example is comparing, say, something like the Imp Mother challenge to the Tank challenge or the Healing challenge. They are just on extremely different extremes. Say extremely more. They're on different planets. You can also take buffs into that Imp Mother challenge that nearly trivialize it in comparison to what you're able to take into the Healer challenge or the Tank challenge, which, you know, I think it's fair to say are harder scenarios. So going through the challenges themselves, the Tank challenge, a lot of people argued it wasn't a tank challenge about your ability to tank. It was a DPS check, it was about retarded NPC survival more than you as a tank. And I get that, but I kind of disagree to some extent. What I liked about the Tank challenge was I think it put a forced ability on you to multitask, to multiple things at once. You had to be aware of your NPC's health, your own health, your cooldowns, your debuff, your positioning, the ads, the eyes, the boss. You know, to me, it's a complex challenge around visuals, and generally that's kind of what tanking is. So to top this off, your DPS was a component to your success in that challenge earlier on, you know, pushing through from phase 1 to 2 with maybe only 2 Infernals up and things like that. So for me, I actually think it was a really good test for tanks, but obviously loads of other people on the other side of the fence to that argument. The Healing Tower, the issue around this one, I think everyone can agree on, was that it was just so damn long. I actually felt like it was a really well designed scenario apart from this. Maybe they needed a save point through the middle of it. But before you throw your chair at the screen and dislike the video, you know, what I enjoyed about the healing scenario as a non-healer was the different styles that it threw at me. You know, those first waves in phase 1 getting harder and harder, having to CC, monitor cooldowns, when to blow things, you know, who brings their granny to a siege. So, you know, I enjoyed that aspect of it. The DPS component of racing up the tower in time to get there. The last 2 phases of burst healing whilst keeping your party alive, and then that Nightbane mechanic moving into the last phase as you struggle to find a balance between your yo-yoing health pool. you know, honestly, I thought it was a really well-designed scenario in regards to all the aspects of healing that it brought with it. It was just very long. 2-guard Blood Totem, I think everyone can agree, if you got this challenge, you were pretty much set. It was very, it wasn't, yeah, it was easy. I'm just gonna say it. It was easy. Fuck it. Xylem, this one was on another level from that. This one was fairly punishing in comparison to its execution. So Xylem, I think, had a steep learning curve, you know, moving away from Sigrun or Imp Mother. It required execution to progress through the phases and not choke. Some classes had the ability to sort of completely negate certain mechanics. You know, Demon Hunters could double jump Fell Rush out of ice. Arms Warriors could jump Heroic Leap out. Survival Hunters had the Butchery and the heal thing, I can't remember what it's called, where others had to destroy their way out, like Frost DK and things like that. So I think, again, you know, and nobody wants like normalization across all the classes where there's no variation, but again, it just led to different experiences for different classes on that challenge. And lastly, Sigrun. So I actually enjoyed this one, and I can't verbalize why. I just liked it. It wasn't mind-bogglingly creative. It wasn't super visually captivating. You were just in a big circle, but for some reason I really enjoyed it. I liked the mixture of mechanics that were in there, but again, you put it next to the healing or the tank challenge, or even probably Xylem, and they kind of feel like they're on different worlds. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I probably talked for well and truly long enough. Sorry about this one, but it was obviously always going to be a long video. I think the Mage Towers have been probably one of the greatest things, aside from Mythic Plus, to come into Legion. I hope Blizzard have learnt a lot about what kind of response they get from players with content like this, with cosmetic rewards tied to maybe solo scenarios and things like that. I hope we see something similar in BFA. We're obviously not going to see Mage Towers in BFA, it would make no sense, but I'd like to see cosmetic rewards maybe brought back from that challenge mode aspect, and tied to Mythic Plus. You know, it's kind of like the merging of the two. So you know, I've said it on several streams and on several videos, but link cosmetic rewards to keystone levels and gold runs and things like that. So I just want to say thank you, I guess, to finish up. Thank you to every single person who commented on the Mage Tower videos, for support, who came and hung out on stream, for the tips, to everybody that is trying to finish their last towers before 8.0. I wish you absolutely all the very best in getting these skins. Remember, you only have until 8.0 to obtain the original appearance for the Mage Tower, so make sure you're getting on these if it's something you want. Thank you very much for taking all this time to watch this video, guys. Hopefully I didn't go on for too long. But yeah, just thanks heaps, guys. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. See you guys.